Yeah, and then I was just kind of like part of their family, and they're like, oh, you got to go to Berklee and stuff. Like, come to this camp. And I was like, no, I don't have the money. Like, I'm not going. I was like, college is a scam. No. They're like, you have to do it. I was like, okay, whatever. And then I did it. Yeah, I was like, okay.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Keith Billick here, bringing you another episode of the Picky Fingers Banjo Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the world's foremost podcast for banjos and the people who love them. So if you fit that description, welcome in. And heck, even if you don't, make yourself at home and enjoy your stay. I'm actually proud of myself. I'm getting this episode to you about a day ahead of time, compared to my usual schedule. And there's a very exciting reason for that. A lot of you who have been regular listeners remember about a year or two ago, I went on an interview gathering road trip down to Nashville, and that resulted in a lot of really cool interviews. Well, I'm going to do the same thing again. However, this time it's going to be through Virginia and some parts of Pennsylvania. And I cannot wait to have you all see the list of interviewees that I have coming up over the next week, but that'll be my little secret for the time being. But you know what brought this all along was I had a bit of a revelation a year or two ago. There was one year that we lost Bill Emerson, we lost Sonny Osborne, we lost J.D. Crowe, and possibly even one or two others that I'm forgetting. But it really occurred to me that for what I'm doing with this podcast, for a lot of the players who aren't going to come to me, I have to go to them. So I'm really proud. I'm not suggesting that everyone I'm going to be interviewing over the next week is knocking on death's door, but they're just the type of players who probably aren't going to be touring through suburban Detroit anytime soon. So like I said, I am going to them, and eventually we'll be sharing all of that with you. Now, I absolutely cannot forget to mention that this would not be possible at all if it were not for my lovely, talented Patreon supporters of the show. If you head over to patreon.com/banjopodcast, that is where you sign up to throw me a measly few bucks a month, and that really does help keep the show running and helps me go gather these interviews from some real banjo legends. So today we have a very special Patreon supporter of the show to recognize. That is Kim Nikkei. Kim, thank you so much for your support. As I just described, I could not do it without you and the fellow Patreon supporters. So once again, patreon.com/banjopodcast, and thank you to Kim Nikkei, today's Patreon supporter of the show. Now, of course, you can always email the show as well with all of your helpful suggestions, questions, and other feedback. That's pickyfingersbanjopodcast@gmail.com. And of course, don't forget to help me out on all of the internet algorithms by liking and subscribing on, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. If you see me in any of those places, make sure you give the old thumbs up and subscribe button a try there. Today's featured guest is Victor Furtado, one of the top young clawhammer banjoists on the scene today. He currently tours and performs and records with the Wildmans. Victor started playing the banjo at the ripe old age of 9, so he has been around old-time and bluegrass music all his life and is very experienced with that, but has gone on to really forge his own sound. He won the Steve Martin Banjo Prize a few years ago and went to Berklee College of Music, where he just graduated, and frankly, he does some things on the clawhammer banjo that I have never heard people do before, and he was able to demonstrate a lot of those those really cool and innovative techniques during this interview. This interview did happen at Midwest Banjo Camp last week, so this is the first of a few that I was able to do there. And this also is a first for the Picky Fingers Banjo podcast, the first group of siblings to appear. Victor is also the younger brother of Gina Furtado, who we know and love around these parts. So give a warm Picky Fingers welcome to Victor Furtado.
I'm the youngest of 9 kids.
Yeah, that blows me away.
We're not all kids anymore.
Right.
But yeah, my older siblings...
Were all 9 of you ever kids at one time? Are you pretty compatible?
Actually,
what's the age
surprisingly, range? Yes, I would say. I think my older brother is... The oldest, I think, is 14 years older.
Okay, yeah.
And Gina's maybe 12 years older.
You were all kids for a few years there.
Yeah. So yeah, my older siblings all played music. They had a family band. They were going to Galax Fiddlers Convention mostly, and the oldest one was playing saxophone, I remember.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And he actually graduated music school in New Orleans recently for piano.
Whoa.
And he plays a lot of different styles.
And I know you have another sister who's a cellist.
I have a cellist sister.
Other than the saxophone, the black sheep saxophone player, are most of you in the general umbrella of like traditional string band type of instruments? Yeah,
I mean, the cello player isn't so much of a bluegrass musician. That's Christina. Right. But Gina, bluegrass banjo player. And Malia is a great bluegrass fiddler. Mm-hmm. And
plays with Gina regularly, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And then Lou plays the bass. Lou is the sibling just older than me.
Okay. So, are you the only clawhammer banjoist?
Lou, my older sibling, right above me, they play clawhammer as well.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm wondering, with so many different, you having been exposed to so many different instruments growing up, do you remember what it was about the banjo that made you gravitate that direction? Because I imagine you had potentially your choice of almost anything.
Yeah. There was literally, mandolins, banjos, literally like 10 fiddles.
In your house?
Yeah, in my house.
Wow.
There was a mountain dulcimer at a period, piano, cellos.
Yeah.
But my older brother, Joe, he went to Galax and heard the Bubba George string band.
Okay.
And they're just like a really groovy old-time string band. And apparently he was camped next to them. And so he had always been, around the bluegrass scene, and he just really liked the old-time fiddling. So he picked up old-time fiddling, and then we ended up going to another festival called Clifftop.
Sure.
AKA Appalachian String Band Festival in West Virginia. And that's primarily old-time. And yeah. I think I was probably like 6 or something, maybe even younger when I first went. And yeah, right about when I was 9 years old, I just really gravitated towards the banjo and specifically the clawhammer. And my brother Joe at the time was really into it. So
I know it's tough to remember when you were that age, but was there someone you saw playing that really, I don't know, made you go that direction?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm sure there's just so many, at Clifftop.
Yeah, just everywhere.
It's funny because now, going to the festivals, I'm kind of like meeting them, but I'm like, it's like these people that I've just known.
Yeah.
But I'm like older. I'm like, oh, I'm Victor, by the way, because like I was just a little kid running around.
Yeah, it's hard to recognize you probably for them.
Yeah,
that's funny.
People like Adam Hurt. I would hear him and really liked his sound, and
of course,
Kathy Fink, Hillary Burhans for sure.
Okay.
She's here, and she was just like, she's just always been this lady at Clifftop in my mind, just having good jams and just having this really driving old-time banjo sound.
That's cool. How did you progress in your learning? Did you get a banjo pretty soon after that? Were your parents pretty supportive of like if one of the kids expressed interest, they would try to make that happen for you?
Yeah. So I was kind of, in my mind, I was just going to learn an instrument. Like I was like, well, I'm 9, I guess it's time to learn something.
Yeah.
But I was never really told like, oh, you have to learn an instrument. Like I was never forced.
Sure.
But there was a bunch of banjos around. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think my sister Teresa started playing clawhammer before me.
Okay.
And that was right around when I was 9. So she had a Deering Good Time. Mm-hmm. And I picked that up eventually, and I was plucking out some tune with the open strings.
Yeah.
And then I started playing it, started playing the clawhammer. And then, other than just having the sound of the music, like ingrained in me, I got a Murphy Method DVD in which Lynn Morris taught clawhammer.
Okay.
And so that was the start. Yeah, there was like 5 or 6 tunes that I started on.
So the family band that you grew up with, or that was in your family as you were growing up, was that a flexible outfit? Like, was it sort of the expectation that you would be a part of that too, or were you a part of that?
I was never a part of it, and it was kind of like, by the time I was 9, I think it was pretty much done for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone was too old. Is that why? Like
they were just kind of, they just wanted to do their own thing. And They were just done with it. It was like with my dad, and they're like, I don't want to be in a band with my dad. So they kind of, just branching off, and they were just doing.
It wasn't quite as cool as it was when they were.
Yeah, they kind of joined other bands of their own. I remember Gino was playing with some local musicians, and they were kind of joining, like higher, because they were a lot better than my parents.
Okay.
They surpassed them.
You're going to be grounded for that one, Victor. So I read kind of in your bio that you started doing contests pretty early too. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So like, how did you prepare for those? How did you go from learning basics on Murphy Method to coming up with these like contest arrangements of these pieces?
Well, a lot of the festivals, just for context, just have contests. Mm-hmm. And so, like, most people do it. And even some festivals, like Galax, you get some of your entry fee back if you compete.
Right.
Because it's, like, part of the attraction. It's like, oh, you get to see everybody on stage performing and competing and stuff. So it was kind of just, like, normal to do the contest.
Okay.
When I did the Murphy Method, when I was 9, I think I was literally playing, like, no less than 5 hours every day.
Wow.
And I remember just waking up and, like, being so obsessed with it. I don't know why. I don't remember like what was going through my mind, but I would like, there'd be something harder tune that I would get. I remember I was working on Cluckled Hen, and I had this pull off, and I was like 8 or 9, and I was just like determined. I would not stop practicing it until I got it.
So like, what does that sound like? And I guess what would you advise people maybe if they have a roadblock of that nature?
That was, I was just loving it. I think, I guess I would just say, do something that you love. Just keep working at it. And somebody was asking me here, like, they were trying to learn the fiddle, and it was like not going so well. And they're kind of getting like, I don't know. Because they're trying to learn the banjo at the same time, and they're asking me if I learned 2 instruments at the same time. And I was kind of just suggesting, like, pick one that really motivates you and stick to that one, I think.
Yeah, a lot of people ask, like, what's easier? And they're sort of missing the point that doing something you love is the easiest.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter which instrument is easier. It's like, when you're motivated, that's the easiest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you just want to learn about it.
Exactly.
And you find it cool, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I grew up looking up YouTube videos, and I'd be looking up Hillary Bare Hands and listening to Adam Hurt. We'd like get his CD, and I just played that on repeat. And I think a lot of it was I didn't really have a constant teacher too, so I kind of became my own teacher a little bit after the Murphy Method video. I was just so into it that I was like, I have to figure it out. So for anybody who doesn't know, one of Murphy's key principles is learning by ear rather than tab. Do you think that
helped you quite a bit to learn in that way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Is there any advice you'd have for people picking up clawhammer of like how to develop your ear? Like maybe if they're used to looking at a tab sheet and don't know how to do anything else?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things we were talking about here in one of our workshops was, just don't be like too scared to make a mistake. And the music's for fun. And so it doesn't have to be so perfect either. I think some of the best tunes or little things that feel like I've created have been kind of just me going out on a limb and being like, oh wow, that sounds cool, And I remember one time when I was young, I had a friend and I was like teaching him how to play. I must have been like 12 years old, and we'd go to the festivals, and one time he was like practicing his little tune. He was kind of nervous and he messed up, and we just like both looked at each other. We were like, holy cow, like that was so cool.
It was like a good mess up.
Yeah, it was like genius. And then I think that contest I tried to play like Bonnie Prince Charlie, which is on maybe Perspectives by Adam Hurt.
Okay.
It's like this dark like tune, and like I played it and it was like I was trying really hard to get it perfect, and then he beat me in the contest.
Oh, well, I guess that's fitting maybe. Anyway. So I'm curious about like you described yourself as like being your own teacher. So I'm curious if that means maybe you have perhaps unconventional ways of playing that maybe normal students wouldn't have taught themselves just because you were left, kind of to your own devices.
Yeah, totally. It's been a rewarding and also frustrating journey just trying to be a good musician while remaining a clawhammer banjo player. That sounds terrible.
Well, I mean, explain what you mean by that. I think I might know, but...
Not necessarily a good musician, but a flexible and professional in the sense that I can hang with different genres and hang with different techniques. Like, I guess I'm not the type of musician to just stick to like one thing. I'm like, there's some amazing banjo players that'll just stick to round peak old time, and they're amazing musicians, but I've always just been curious, I think, just in general. And I was around musicians that were like, oh, let's play this like Django Reinhardt tune, or let's play this. And I'd be like, well,
you want to participate.
I want to participate. Yeah.
I mean, if you're up for it, I would love to hear examples of some of the ways that you use the basic clawhammer to do maybe not down the middle old time stuff. I assume that's what you mean, like stuff that branches out a bit. Yeah,
totally. I've been like always, I feel like close enough to be able to play it. I'm like, well, I can kind of do it. It kind of works. So then I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just stick to clawhammer,
Yeah.
But like, I guess something part of me is like, I think it's possible, And so I've always kind of had that standpoint. And sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to learn I'm going to learn the guitar instead. But for some reason, I just have always had clawhammer as my primary thing, and then ended up going to Berklee, and then same thing continues still.
So, like, what would be some playing examples of like you using clawhammer to play things that people aren't usually playing clawhammer banjo with?
Yeah. So sometimes it's like doesn't work out, but then sometimes I'm like, wow, like I would have never thought of this, but it works out great. Like at Berklee, I did like a bebop type ensemble.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, I'm still like, I think it's possible, but it doesn't sound very good.
Are you able to play something for me to hear what bebop clawhammer banjo sounds like?
See, that's the one that didn't work out so well. But
right.
At one point I had worked out Donna Lee a little bit.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but the chords work pretty well.
Yeah.
But I did learn a batch of Swedish tunes from Natalie Haas, and for some reason it worked out really well. I'll play some of that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's very cool.
They're really
I
fun.
dig that.
Yeah.
Who's I know you said you learned it from Natalie, but whose piece is that, or is that a traditional something or other?
I think it's pretty traditional, but I think the author is Lars Fredriksson.
Huh. Okay.
I believe. Yeah.
Nice.
Polska au Lars Fredriksson.
Okay. Cool.
Something. Yeah.
I mean, do you have any other examples coming to mind of, like, I love hearing all these different styles on clawhammer. So, I could just keep listening to you do this stuff.
So I got really into like
that's a Bela Fleck tune. I can hear.
Yeah, you got it. Right. Yeah, it has Bela has a lot of, well, he's Bela, but he has a lot of cool rhythm stuff. Like that one has that kind of, I believe it's a 3/4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of figured out how to do that in clawhammer. Because normally we're just going bum diddy bum diddy.
Right.
But then I had to go.
I love that. That's great. So you mentioned you went to Berklee, which you just completed. Is that right?
I did.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Who was the main person who you were studying with over there?
My banjo teacher was Greg List.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyone who knows who he is not known as a clawhammer player.
Not at all.
Does he play clawhammer?
No, he doesn't.
Okay, so your instruction had nothing to do with like mechanics or clawhammer specific.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was challenging at times. Like I said, sometimes the tune would work out great, sometimes not really. But he was always encouraging me to, pave my own path.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would get really into like one of Bela's rolls, and I'd be like, maybe I can figure out some technique where I'm still kind of doing clawhammer.
Okay.
So
were you able to actually develop things like that?
Yeah, a little bit. I can't really remember each one of those rules.
Okay.
But I've kind of made up a way of doing rolls with the clawhammer.
That's really interesting that you say that, because as you were warming up ahead of time before we started recording here, that's what I thought I was hearing. I was like, wow, you're playing clawhammer rolls.
Yeah.
Which is, really cool and definitely appeals to my ear, being more of a bluegrass guy.
Yeah.
Hey folks, just need to take a quick break to tell you all about my good friends up in Lansing, Michigan at Elderly Instruments. Now you might be thinking that with Elderly's amazing selection and their fast worldwide shipping, that they are some big box conglomerate store. But no, Elderly has been family owned since 1972, and they pride themselves on giving you the customer service and personal touch that only a mom and pop store can give you. So the next time you need anything for your banjo, guitar, violin, mandolin, any stringed instruments, accessories, instructional materials, and I'm talking about whether you're looking for a beginner instrument or even a high-end, vintage, hard-to-find item, Elderly's going to have you covered. It's my first place that I go. So check them out at elderly.com, and don't forget to let them know that the Piggy Fingers Banjo Podcast sent you. This podcast is also brought to you by Peghead Nation, a site that brings you streaming video courses in banjo, guitar, mandolin, fiddle, dobro, upright bass, and ukulele. You can learn bluegrass, old time, and plenty of other roots music styles from some of the most talented players and instructors in the world. Now, some of what Peghead Nation offers is a great lineup, of course, of banjo instruction. Check out these courses: Beginning Banjo with Bill Evans, Bluegrass Banjo with Bill Evans, Clawhammer Banjo with Evie Layden, Wade Ward-style Banjo with Bruce Molsky, The Banjo According to Danny Barnes, and Contemporary Bluegrass Banjo with Wes Corbett. Now, regardless of what course you choose, you're going to get high-quality multi-angle video lessons, downloadable notation and tab, play-along tracks, and plenty of tunes to play. Now, perhaps the best part of all this is that just by being a Picky Fingers podcast listener, you are going to get your first month free. Just go to pegheadnation.com and use the promo code PickyFingers at checkout. That's PickyFingers, all lowercase, all one word, over at pegheadnation.com. Picky Fingers Banjo Podcast is proud to welcome a brand new sponsor, Sullivan Banjos. The Sullivan family has been in the banjo making business for decades and have earned their reputation for the highest quality in materials and craftsmanship. Perhaps the best part is you get the big-time Sullivan tone while getting the personal customer service of a small boutique banjo custom shop. Chances are that if you can dream it, Eric Sullivan can build it. My main banjo is proof. I've been playing and loving my Sullivan custom banjo since 2004, and it just keeps getting better and better every day. So hop online and go to sullivanbanjos.com, email them at sullivanbanjo@gmail.com, or get a hold of them the old-fashioned way. Pick up the phone and dial 502-365-5022. And don't forget to tell them that Keith from the Picky Fingers podcast sent you. Is that the main takeaway you feel like you got from your education with Greg, was just the motivation to do something that was unique and your own?
Yeah, kind of not feeling limited by the clawhammer.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I'm here as a clawhammer banjo player, and he can't really show me clawhammer stuff, so
yeah.
It was always, sometimes I was like, Greg, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't practice the tune, and then like 2 weeks would go by, and he was always chill about it. He'd be like, oh, we'll try this one instead, you know. Huh. But some of the stuff I would get, and I'm still pretty excited about. So.
And were there any other clawhammer players there with you?
There was, like, for like a semester or two. Then they dropped out.
Okay.
And yeah, at first when I started, there was like 5 banjo players, and kind of was like 3 or 4 most of the time. So
they don't necessarily have like a path for you set up with like instructors that specialize in that, it sounds like.
Yeah, not really, no. It's just Greg teaching.
Even as far as bluegrass players go, he's unconventional already. And yeah, to have that extra style weirdness, that's nuts.
It was fun. Yeah, and he, I guess I should mention with the whole like innovation thing, yeah, I was wanting to play other styles, and should probably name drop a few people. At Galax, I would be hanging around Danny Nicely, Rex McGee, and Nate Leith.
Yeah.
They're just like monster musicians, and they play all these different tunes, and I would want to participate in that. And yeah, Nate just had this really cool style. And then I heard of Rashad Eggleston, who plays cello, really unconventional. And
right.
Well, I saw Ned, and Ned saw Dave, and Dave saw Joe, and Joe saw Bert, and Bert told Joe to rosin his boat, and now's a good time to play cello, yeah.
Yeah, I got like really obsessed with him when I was like 15.
Wow.
And then I tried to copy his like bow bounce stuff.
Whoa, let me hear that.
Well, I guess like and then like me and my buddy Andrew Vokes would do Durang's hornpipe. This would be the intro. he would go like with his bow mounts like.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and what instrument did you say Andrew was his name?
Yeah, he played
Is that
fiddle.
a fiddler?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, to properly do it like Rashad, though, you have to be shirtless up in a tree.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
Have you mastered that part? Okay.
A little bit, not too much. I did that a little more before. I do have a video with me and my sibling Lou where we're jamming in a tree and I'm doing a split.
Oh, wow. I was just joking. And like you actually have done that. Okay.
Not
crazy.
I don't go as high in the tree as Rashad.
Okay.
And yeah.
That's funny. So, man, you have so many interesting techniques. I'm wondering, so the listeners here are mostly banjo aficionados or learning, and I'm curious as to, you've already shown us some techniques, but what ones do you think are maybe the most helpful, I guess, to developing, in your case, whatever you consider to be your style? Are there particular actual playing techniques that you discovered that helped you along the way?
Yeah. Well, the cluck is a good one, and that's well known. It's like. So that's classic. And then I just really like doing these like little polyrhythmic drop thumbs. Like. And then
so let me
sure.
pause you right there, because I'm someone who doesn't play clawhammer, but my understanding is the unconventional part of that is the fact that your thumb was playing the downbeat note as opposed to the downstroke, which usually plays the downbeat note, and your thumb will play the upbeats.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a fair analysis of sort of what your
the thumb
trick was there?
The thumb is actually playing the upbeats.
Is it? Okay,
It
I
is,
was
yeah.
just mishearing it or seeing it, I guess.
But I was doing what's I guess a little unconventional is I call it a ghost note, where normally you would strike, do the thumb on the upbeat, and then strike again.
Yeah.
Like but I would do the ghost note and let the thumb ring out until the beat is finished. Like let's see. Instead of
Yeah.
and you can just go far with it. So.
Sometimes in playing banjo rolls, 3-finger style, leaving out notes, actually, you're playing fewer notes, but it actually becomes more challenging because you're out of the rolling nature of that.
Right.
Is that true for that as well, as that it's actually tougher to leave out notes rather than playing more of them?
Well, it is, but I think a lot of people have the issue where they leave it out and then their hand is all out of whack. But that's the whole like ghost note part about it is that your hand is still moving up and down.
Right.
And that's kind of what I've learned with clawhammer. I'm like, people often think you're kind of limited to just the bum diddy and that kind of rhythm, but within the bum diddy, there's all these little hidden little rhythms and little more complex ideas that can come out. And so I've been kind of on this journey. I'm like, oh, it's all in there. It's just you need to like unlock it.
You kind of have to hear them first and then dissect a way to get at them, I guess.
Yeah, like just keep like the bum diddy. It's a kind of a grid, like kind of like a map, and you kinda, the drop thumbs are always on that little upbeat, and then if you combine that with ghosting either the down strike or another up, you can get these polyrhythmic phrases.
Yeah.
So like I did this clave in Berklee at the Afro-Caribbean lab. So I was trying to figure it out on the banjo. So it's like something like. Just that kind of thing.
And do you have a way of like deploying that in your improvisations or in your composing or anything like that?
I think
or it'll just be in there until you think you need it.
Yeah, I'd kind of do it too much to tunes, I think.
Okay.
Like, you know,
That's very calypso-y
Yeah.
type of sound, for
I
sure.
I like it. It's interesting to me, but
And then the one that you demonstrated where you were mimicking the Rashad bow bounce, you were almost doing like a flamenco finger brush with that, I thought.
Yeah.
Is that right?
yeah, so I do this thing where I actually use my thumbnail coming up.
Huh.
And I kind of like hit the banjo up on the scoop part. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool.
And I do that with the bum diddy too. It's like instead of striking with a finger like regular bum diddy, I take that out and replace it with a striking up with the thumbnail.
Wow.
And that's fun. And then you can combine, have this like skipping feel.
Now that sounds very Greg Listy to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, Greg. And then Greg, I'm like, I'll never do, I don't think I'll ever be able to do that, what Greg does, because he's...
None of us will, but yeah.
Yeah. Me and Greg did a tune for my senior recital. I was like, oh, I want to come up with some cool little, like, floaty intro. And he's like, do one of those clawhammer rolls.
Yeah.
And we did something. It was actually for the Bela tune there. Slipstream.
Uh-huh.
I think we did, like... Or maybe, like... I don't know what the chords were. Something like that.
Very cool. Let's talk about the Wildmans. Is that still a group that you
Mm-hmm.
perform? That's like your main performing
Yeah.
thing that you do. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say that's the main band I'm performing with.
That's just a 3-piece. Is that right?
It's a 3-piece, but we usually get a bass player, drummer sometimes on tour with us.
Okay.
But
Well, talk about what that band is like and what people could maybe expect to see if they come see you play with that group.
Yeah, that's cool. And well, when I was 17, me and Lou, who I mentioned a couple times, ran down to Boone, North Carolina, and I lived with my friend Dane Sheeler in Quinlan. I don't remember Quinlan's last name, but they're great musicians and old-time friends.
Mm-hmm.
And Dane let me live in his house there while he was going to App State University. And lived there for a while. Then I started visiting Floyd, my friends the Wildmans. And then a few months later, well, they had this old studio out, and we fixed up the studio, and I moved in. And that was in 20...
And is Floyd pretty close to Boone?
It's like 2 hours, actually.
Okay.
But it was closer than Front Royal was.
Okay.
So, and then, I moved in 2017. Started playing with them. Mm-hmm. And their brother and sister, Eli and Isla, and... and then I was just kind of like part of their family, and they're like, oh, you got to go to Berklee and stuff. Like, come to this camp. And I was like, no, I don't have the money. Like, I'm not going. I was like, college is a scam. No. They're like, you have to do it. I was like, okay, whatever. And then I did it.
They just told you had to.
Yeah, I was like, okay. And then, and we've just been playing together since, and I went to Berklee with them.
It's a pretty old-timey sounding group, right? But it's with singing and original music.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of changed throughout the years, I mean, I don't know. I want to say they did more almost bluegrass when I first met them, and then I kind of got them into old time, I feel like.
Nice.
And then, so now it's like half old time and then half like Eli, the guitar player. He's been into like, oh gosh, what's his name? The country classic, just all these country, like Emmylou Harris and all those. So he's been into those old country songs and Flying Burrito Brothers and stuff.
Okay.
So we do a couple of those type of songs and singing songs. And Isla, she likes a lot of different music. We do a Tedeschi Trucks cover. It's a little mix. It's like half. It's funny. It's like half old time and then half just like totally kind of different.
Just whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So let's talk about your composing, because you compose quite a bit too, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I've been trying to reel in all the stuff I was exposed to at Berklee, and so I'm hoping to put it together and make a little album in the future soon. So,
I mean, to the extent that you have composed, do you have a typical process that you do that, or are you able to like maybe share one of your original compositions and take us through maybe some of the techniques that you're using?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I'll go down to this tuning here.
What tuning were you in?
Just then?
Yeah.
Double C.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, here's a tune I wrote.
Very cool. And what's that one called?
Yeah, it's called Rusty.
Okay. That's on one of your albums, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay. Nice. And so in terms of like the composing process, what's kind of your style? Do you usually have like some sort of feeling that you go for, or maybe a banjo technique that you are exploring and stumble upon something catchy, or what?
These days, yeah, I have a couple of things that help me. But then when I wrote that tune, I was, 15 or something. And it's funny because after I've heard all these advice and tips and techniques for writing tunes, it's actually become harder.
Oh, wow. Just because you're trying to like think of all the things you're supposed to remember, or instead of just letting it happen.
Yeah. And people kind of talk about that with like going to music school.
Huh.
They kind of get burned out.
I could envision that happening. I've never gone to music school, but yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. But so feeling, that's a good one. I think, a lot of the tunes that I've written are like kind of about something, whether it's like like I have one called The Ghost on Hippie Hill, which is a hill at Mount Airy Fiddlers Convention.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of just like about the vibe there.
It's a haunted kind of vibe?
It is a haunted kind of vibe, yeah.
In a bad way or like a...
No, in like a fun,
cool way?
exciting way. Like,
Okay.
like I was a kid and there was like all these hippies playing on the hill and smoking pot.
And you got a tune out of it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of them was kind of like based on a feeling or like kind of being like, okay, I want to write it about something. Because people are like, oh, you're going to write a song then if you're going to write about something.
Uh-huh.
Or like a person or like, you know, some kind of like situation you're going through or some like relationship, you know, you're like, but it's like you can express it through the tune too. So
Yeah.
that's, one of the tips. And then for me now, I'm just starting with a rhythm that's really groovy. Even before you start the melody, that's another tip.
So what's Rusty about?
Rusty? I don't really remember. I think probably the girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, did she have red hair or something?
No.
Okay.
The name was irrelevant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Sometimes it's like not just one thing too. I mean, I would go out in the woods a lot, so it's kind of just like a peaceful tune.
So on that note, maybe it could be about multiple things. Do you tend to write complete tunes in one sitting, or do you maybe have a little passage kicking around in your head for maybe even years?
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me personally, I generally do it in one sitting, but I do have like these like project tunes that I'm working on over time.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to keep it fresh. Like, don't only have one tune that you're working on because you might get frustrated. You can have it on the side, but you have to allow things to come out. You know, like you have to release certain ideas and new things to come in.
Yeah.
So I think that was a something that I believe in.
That's probably something that I'm weak at. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Weak in terms of focusing on one tune, maybe at the expense of being open to something else that I might think of that doesn't have to be related to that.
Yeah.
So
it can give you a new approach, I think.
I know you said you're trying to forget the things that that you learned at Berklee that might ruin you, but like what are some of the basic like tips for composing that you learned there?
I think a lot of just being aware of theory stuff, which was like, it's like kind of a blessing and a curse because before I came to Berklee, I was also like, I don't know, like it's so expensive and like I don't even know how to read music. Like I don't even know the chords I'm playing or music theory.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, well, learn how to read music. I was like, And I'm like still like, but it's helped though too. I've definitely advanced my ears and stuff. But I think, learning theory and learning about harmony and these kind of jazzy chords. Mm-hmm. I remember when I got there, Matt Glazier is the head of the roots department, and he said, take a tritone, like I guess you could do E and B flat, and then sing the root. And then he said, so sing a C. Da, and then slide it down half step and sing the root of that one. Da, so that was a cool tip. The circle of fifths.
I get it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's like perfect for blues. I was like, why has nobody told me I can do blues like
in half steps?
And it's those third and sevenths. It's like, it's the third and seventh, man.
Yeah.
Just focus on that. And I was like, how has nobody told me about that? The circle of fifths and the third and sevenths.
Yeah.
So
most chords in a song are like within a fret or two of each other with those thirds and sevenths. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me too. So it sounds like for all the advantages you might have gotten, maybe prior to that, you didn't have as many rules to follow. So, and now there's like a little voice inside you that tells you not to break these like theory rules?
Kind of.
Is that kind of it?
It's kind of just like, oh, these are like, not like options, but for some reason just having those labels and like, and also, yeah, I think also being like, oh, here's how to write a good tune. Like, here's how to make it. Because there's all this talk about like, oh, that's like a dark scale, or like this is like a bright color. And like these colors and like, it's like formulation. It's like, oh, you want like a happy song that like makes you feel like this, then you're going to use some Ionian and then add a major 2 chord and you have the Lydian and then don't forget to add the sharp 11th. And I'm like, so now like I'm just playing some Lydian where normally I would have just been like, ooh, this sounds mystical.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I know what's going on. But
it's just gotten a little academic.
Yeah. But it's also really cool to have learned all that. And
for sure.
All those, I've made a lot of connections and like realizations with the chords.
Nice. Let's talk about your instrument here. What is this banjo? It looks really cool.
Thanks. This is a Dino Craft custom banjo, and it's walnut pot and neck.
And it looks like a 11-inch pot. Is that?
It's actually a 12-inch.
Is it?
It is. Yeah.
Man, my eyes are failing me.
It's banjo camp. I mean, we're overloaded. And then I have on the back side I have these bird's eye maple accents.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's got a chunky neck, which is kind of like his thing, which was hard to get used to at first, but now I love it. And it's got a Dobson tone ring and a goat skin head. And my idea was to have the 12-inch pot because I like the thumpy low end. Mm-hmm. But then I kind of thought that the Dobson would add a little bit of brightness on the high end too.
Okay.
So
I'm glad you added that because bluegrass people like me, we don't always know all the different old time options like that. But Dobson is essentially like a hoop, like a
yeah, it looks like,
yeah, cool.
I don't know quite how to describe that. A donut cut in half or something.
Yeah, it's kind of dished out. I don't know. Look it up on the internet, I guess, people, if you need to know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then it has this, I guess people call this a flange. It's like a wooden flange that goes all the way around holding the brackets in place instead of having boots.
It's really cool looking. Is that like a rosewood piece there? Something like that.
I don't know. Yeah. That's a good question.
And so who did you say the builder was again?
His name is Dean Robinson.
And where is that person from?
He's in North Carolina.
Okay.
I forget the town. But.
And does he make a lot of banjos? Is he like a known builder? I have not heard the name myself.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't make that many. He's not as big of a company. He just has a home wood shop.
Yeah,
but
that's really cool.
Yeah, I met him at Clifftop, and he makes great banjos. So.
And what is this inlay on the headstock?
So that I was trying to decide. I was going to do the custom inlay and everything, and I was just taking so long to decide. He's like, don't you want your banjo? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, what do you want for the inlay? And like, couldn't decide. So he sent me a picture of this, I guess it's a fern or like some kind of plant from his yard.
Okay.
And he was like, how about this? I was like, sure. And then I was like, actually just don't do any inlay on the neck. So
interesting. But there's like a little
there's dots
carving
on the side.
Oh, is that that's an adjustment thing? I was seeing like the truss rod adjustment.
The truss rod adjustment is in the scoop.
Yeah.
Instead of at the top at the head. So
interesting.
Headstock.
And that's your main banjo, I assume?
Yeah, I would say it's my main banjo, yeah.
Cool. And what was that pickup system that I saw in there?
Sure, yeah. That is a Myers Feather.
Okay.
Little mini mic. It's kind of like equivalent to a DPA, but I think it works great. Yeah.
And the microphone is inside the pot, right?
It's inside the pot. I have the wire zip tied and folded up in there, and have a Velcro where the tuning has a volume knob, which is nice.
Got it. Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, and it works great. It was only like $200, I think. So
yeah, which is much less than the DPA for anyone keeping track.
Yeah.
Any other like gear related stuff or recording related stuff that you're partial to? I'm
not really super like a gear person, or recording gear, but yeah, I'm kind of just, it's the player, not the axe kind of type of person, I guess. But I've just gone through different banjos, and I've never been like super specific, I guess. And as far as recording, I have a couple mics that Kathy Fink suggested me, some warm audio, and they sound good, but I'm still learning how to, record myself.
Gotcha. What made you choose the skinhead? Obviously just the tone, but do you also have to like wrestle with all the challenges of that?
Yeah, I think I was feeling that the tone would be nice with the skinhead. I was kind of thinking, I'll try it out, and I can always get another head, put it on.
Yeah.
But I've been really surprised with how tight it stays even when it gets humid.
Really? Okay.
It does definitely go down though. And I'm like, well, I guess this is going to be my sound, because usually I've lost the wrench to tighten it.
Okay. So you just sound floppy for a few days until it dries out?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've gotten a wrench since, so I prefer to be able to adjust it.
Nice. How about leave us with, if you have a website, or how people find you and keep track of your recordings and your performances, anything else you want people to know?
Sure, yeah. I have a couple things going on. I have a YouTube channel, which you can just look up my name, Victor Furtado, and I post a bunch of videos there. Have some new ones coming out. I like doing little collaborations with different musicians. I did one with a cello player. I did the Swedish tune, one of the Swedish tunes. And
yeah.
I did this like Turkish tune with a singer and a percussionist.
Whoa, cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to find that.
Yeah, and then I post a lot on Instagram, where on my Instagram I have a link tree where you can like sign up for lessons, and have a website, victorfurtado.net, that I'm working on.
Nice.
So yeah, I just go to the Instagram and YouTube primarily.
Great.
Get all the info there.
Well, hey, thanks again for your time. I know it's a busy weekend, so I appreciate you squeezing me in and everything.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on the Picky Fingers.
Yeah, happy to have you.
Thanks.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
Thanks everyone for joining me for this episode of the Picky Fingers Banjo Podcast. You heard a few sound clips in this episode, and in order they were Sugar Hill by Victor Furtado, Old Bunch of Keys by the Bubba George String Band, Bonnie Prince Charlie by Adam Hurt, The Road is Rocky by The Deadly Gentlemen, Them Saw Them by Rashad Eggleston, and Richmond by the Wildmans. Thank you once more to Kim Nikkei. He's Patreon supporter of the show. Head over to patreon.com/banjopodcast to support the show yourself. That is very much appreciated. Or you can always email the show at pickyfingersbanjopodcast@gmail.com. That's going to do it for this show. Wish me luck on the road trip, and I will be back with interviews to share with all of you. So I will see you all next time.